Okay, the scale of the Han expansion in this chapter is just astounding. We jump from grassland power plays, Moden's clever tech adoption versus Suritu's grit, straight into the Han's internal engine firing on all cylinders, Yufu's river to grassland. Route via the lake is a game changer, solving trade and resource issues brilliantly. But the real kicker is the massive recruitment drive. Over 4,000 troops mustered almost instantly. The logistics alone, building barracks from scratch, forging advanced shen new crossbows and stamped iron armor, it's dizzying efficiency. My favorite moment? Jiang Xuan's absolute culture shock arriving in Liuyang County. Seeing the scale, the school, the sheer organization. It perfectly shows the chasm between the Han and other tribes. It's not just military might, it's systemic power. This newly forged army is clearly being primed for something big, and seeing the Yujiang leader so utterly awestruck makes you wonder how alliances will shift. Can anyone truly stand against this momentum? Jiang Xuan listened and nodded. Right, Big Tree's description was pretty much the same as the tall tales Yufu had spun back then. Now seeing this Liuyang prefecture with his own eyes, well, that kid hadn't been lying after all. A single prefecture with over 20,000 people? Not an exaggeration, not at all. The chief just came by for a look around last month. Swung by Weishan Prefecture too, Big Tree continued. They're almost at 20,000 people over there now. Our two prefectures combined. That's 40,000 minimum. Big Tree counted on his fingers, muttering, Ruoyang Prefecture must have over 10,000 too. And Hanyang Prefecture's main city plus the 3 surrounding counties, that's about 20,000. Oh right, I didn't even count Sitong County, the iron and copper mines, or the new Jingyan base. Good grief, add it all up. Our Han tribe has got to have 80 or 90,000 people at least. Big Tree was engrossed in his calculations, while Jiang Xuan's head buzzed listening to it all. So many here, so many there. A heap of place names rained down on him, but he grasped the main point. The Han tribe was damn huge. Impressive as it was, his stomach took priority. Jiang Xuan buried his head in his food, concentrating on the delicacies before him, all new and unfamiliar things. He remembered when Yufu visited their Youjiang clan. He'd only produced some pickles and meat congee, and even that was limited by conditions on the boat. Now, here in Liuyang Prefecture, holy cow, it was practically a buffet paradise. Golden. Boiled corn on the cob, plump white steamed rice, sticky rice dumplings, griddle cakes, steamed buns. You could take whatever you wanted, as much as you could eat. Even more amazing were the stir-fried dishes. Vibrant green leaves stir-fried with diced meat in a wok. The aroma was incredible. The Youjiang clan, lacking iron woks and oil, had never tasted such divine flavors. Before him was a plate of stir-fried chopped chives, diced pork skin, soybeans, chili peppers, and corn kernels, a feast for the eyes, nose, and palate. Jiang Xuan wrestled with his chopsticks for ages, nearly breaking the eating utensils. Luckily, there were wooden spoons nearby, saving him the embarrassment of staring longingly at the food he couldn't easily eat. Indeed, if you wanted to see how impressive a place was, you just had to look at what they put on their tables. Just seeing the variety of dishes showed how many different kinds of food the Han tribe had mastered preparing. Looking at this spread, the Han tribe was absolutely absurdly strong. Not only could they eat their fill, but they could also eat well with endless variety. Compared to those who worried daily about where their next meal would come from, there was no comparison. It was on a whole different level. After thoroughly enjoying the feast, Yufu led the group towards Hanyang City early the next morning. Many of the Liuyang locals in the boat convoy were given leave to go home, happily awaiting their rewards. They would wait for the chief's notice to know when to return to work. Consequently, the departing group was much smaller. Yufu led 20 or 30 trusted men, all mounted on horseback, looking imposing. The people from the Youjiang clan and the Li tribe rode in horse-drawn carts. These were wide, four-wheeled carts. Lowering the side panels transformed them into 2 long benches, Each cart could seat 10 people with room to stuff plenty of things. In the middle, traveling by cart was another eye-opener for the Youjiang and Li people. Traveling by boat on the inland river was steady, just crowded. These horse carts on land better showcase the Han tribe's transport capabilities. To be honest, the feeling of riding in a horse cart was complicated. The carts were fine, the main issue was the terrible road. There hadn't originally been a road from Hanyang City to Youjiang Prefecture. It had been forcibly pressed out by countless wheels. The ruts were as deep as railway tracks, and the cart wheels ran locked within them, jostling passengers until they felt nauseous. However, bumpy or not, Xuan didn't think it mattered. As long as it could haul goods, what more could you ask for? One should be content. Unfortunately, the Han tribe was clearly a tribe that was never content, especially their chief. Our chief plans to dig a canal, all the way from Youjiang Prefecture to Hanyang Prefecture, Yufu said from horseback, pointing into the distance, his tone as casual as if discussing digging a puddle. It'll make transport between the two places easier, and it can irrigate the fields along the banks, allowing us to grow more grain. Jiang Xuan's jaw nearly dropped. What? They had perfectly good horse carts but insisted on digging an artificial river? Wasn't this completely unnecessary? Just making work for themselves? Besides, a project this massive, when would it ever be finished? Until the cows come home? Does the Han tribe need to transport that much stuff? Why open up so much farmland? Isn't there enough grain? Jiang Xuan couldn't hold back his questions. We definitely need to transport things, and there will only be more in the future. An extra waterway is never a bad thing, Yufu said matter-of-factly. Clearing land is also necessary. We have enough grain now, but who knows about the future? Every household is having babies. The chief even gives rewards. 5 mu of tax-free land for each child born. Who wouldn't try their best to have more? But when the children grow up, they'll need to divide the family land too. What happens when there's no land left? That's why we have to prepare now. Digging the canal is slow? Then we'll dig it slowly. If we can't finish it in our lifetime, we have sons. If our sons can't, we have grandsons. Sons and grandsons, generation after generation, endlessly. One day it will be dug, Yufu declared with the heroic spirit of the foolish old man who moved mountains. Besides, with our chief's impatient nature, he won't wait that long. Don't worry, he definitely has ways to get it done in our generation. Hearing this, Jiang Xuan began to question his reality. He was deeply curious about the source of this tribe's confidence. Why do you all have so much faith in the chief? You believe whatever he says? Jiang Xuan couldn't help asking. If he told you these carts could run without horses, would you believe that too? What's not to believe? Before Yufu could answer, another rider, Yuji, cut in with a hint of pride. If the chief says it, it can definitely be done. Besides, who told you carts can't run without horses? Our Han tribe has windmills and water wheels. Those things turn on their own without needing animals. The sailboat you arrived on, wasn't that pushed by the wind? What's so strange about it? This retort left Jiang Xuan utterly speechless. Right. It was he who hadn't seen the world. Now Jiang Xuan was even more curious about the Han tribe chief he had yet to meet. So young, yet truly so capable. He absolutely had to get a good look this time. However, his wish was temporarily unfulfilled. When the group stopped for a midday break in Xitong County, they ran into an enormous convoy of carts, also heading towards Hanyang Prefecture. Curious, Yufu approached one cart, lifted the straw curtain, and peered inside. It was packed full of copper ore. The scale of this ore transport convoy far exceeded previous ones, hinting at something unusual. Why did Hanyang Prefecture need so much copper? Was the chief planning to mint currency? Were they running low on money? Yufu pondered this inwardly but didn't pry further, leading Jiang Xuan and the others into Xitong County to find a place to eat. In fact, the reason for needing so much copper was indeed related to money. There was enough for now, but once the new city on the grasslands was built, your Han Yuan would need to be introduced to the Shin tribe. and the entire steppe. With a massive increase in users, shouldn't you stockpile in advance rather than scrambling when the need arose? Of course, copper had other uses beyond this. At dusk, the sun dipped below the horizon, and two bright moons climbed into the night sky. Yu Fu and his group arrived at the bank of the Rushui River, holding torches, and were stunned by the sight before them. The Hanyang City docks were ablaze with light, as bright as day. Countless people carrying lanterns and holding torches bustled about on the docks, moving goods. Bundles upon bundles of brown linen quilts, so numerous they had to be loaded on two boats. Cart after cart of cowhide boots streamed continuously into the city, and the conspicuous crimson military uniforms were piled up like mountains. Good heavens, how large an army would need this many clothes and boots? What was the chief planning? Was he already preparing for revenge? Knowing the chief's temperament, that was actually quite possible. On the docks, a minor official was shouting at the top of his lungs, "Faster, faster! Finish unloading this boat and you can go home to sleep. Move it, the city gates will close soon." As he yelled, he rapidly scribbled something down with a bamboo slip. This bustling scene left Xuan utterly dumbfounded again. So many clothes and boots tempting just to look at, but he had no idea what they were for. Before he could figure it out, the cart creaked its way onto the wooden bridge spanning the Rushui River. The bridge stretched across the water in the darkness indistinct, only giving the slightly unnerving sensation of being suspended over empty space. Upon reaching the Hanyang City gate, Xuan requested to get down and walk. This was the third walled city he had seen, and he always preferred walking in when entering a new city, feeling he could observe things more closely that way. But today was clearly not a good time for sightseeing. Hanyang City, not large to begin, seemed exceptionally crowded now. The ring road near the city gate was parked solid with an endless line of large carts, all laden with various supplies. Men holding torches stood guard beside the convoy, while more goods were continuously being transported in from the docks outside the city. All the supplies were piled by the roadside, not stored in warehouses, indicating they were only stopping overnight, likely to be moved out early the next morning. But these were clearly military supplies, and in such enormous quantities. Where was the chief sending all this? Yu Fu recognized them as military supplies at a glance. He had been on missions with the heavy cavalry and was very familiar with them. But Jiang Xuan had never seen the Han tribe's army, and was now breaking out in a cold sweat at the sight before him. Seeing the quilts, clothes, and boots outside the city had merely seemed strange. He hadn't connected it to the military. But once inside the gate, the things he saw were entirely different. Cartloads upon cartloads of arrows, iron armor, steel helmets, and shields. If that wasn't obvious enough, then the bundles of steel spears, long pikes, iron halberds, and waist-worn sabers. Even a fool would know what these gleaming, deadly weapons were for. There was also a strange contraption, loaded onto several carts that looked like a bow but much more complex. Heavens knew how it was used, but if anyone told him it was farm equipment, Jiang Xuan would absolutely grab it and crack their skull open. Such a precise instrument couldn't possibly be a farming tool? Who were they kidding? The long convoy filled 2 entire streets. Jiang Xuan walked alongside, watching, his heart pounding. Towards the end, he discovered that even the short-handled, small iron shovels like the ones Yu Fu and his men used were loaded onto several large carts. The Han tribe, they were too rich, filthy rich, and armed to the teeth. Though Yu Fu was also shocked, he was calmer than Jiang Xuan. He knew that, instead of guessing wildly, it was better to ask the chief directly. Given his status, the chief wouldn't likely hide things from him. So he told Jiang Xuan and the others to wait by the roadside while he went to find you. You were currently resting comfortably at home. You hadn't gone anywhere these past few days except for teaching people to play the military bugle, drawing up designs for new ships at home, and spending time with your 2 pregnant wives. Because starting tomorrow, you would be heading back to the military camp for another period. Knock, knock, knock. Someone rapped on your main gate. Who is it? Chief Yu Fu has returned from Luoyang Prefecture and requests to report. Guard answered loudly from the gate. Oh, back so soon? Your voice came from inside the house. Tell him I'll be right out. Shortly after you emerged, fully dressed, and saw Yu Fu waiting respectfully at the gate. Greetings, Chief. Yu Fu immediately bowed. Good that you're back. Still in one piece? You sized him up and were pleased to see him unharmed. After all, this fellow had opened up a crucial waterway this time. Come, let's go talk over at the administration office. Chief, Yu Fu quickly reminded, I brought the Youjiang clan chief I mentioned in the letter, and the people from the Li tribe. They're still waiting by the road to see you. They came too? You glanced up at the sky. It's already dark, so late. We won't see them today. Someone, go to the reception office and find Hong Fu. Have him arrange food and lodging for these people. Tell them to wait for my summons tomorrow. You dismissed them with a single sentence. Were you kidding? Was the chief of the Han tribe someone you could see whenever you pleased? Beside you, Yu Fu didn't dare object and simply acknowledged the order. Then he heard you continue. Did you bring the sailing log I asked you to write? Right, you haven't eaten yet, have you? Come on, I'll have someone stir-fry a few dishes. Later you can tell me all about what happened on your journey. Brought it. It's just that my handwriting looks like chicken scratch. Please bear with it, Chief. As Yu Fu spoke, he presented the meticulously prepared sailing log with both hands, then carefully craned his neck to ask, Chief, why is there so much equipment piled up by the roadside? Has our tribe raised a new unit? Are we planning to spar with some ignorant barbarian tribe? You nodded slightly. There was no need to hide this from Yu Fu. After all, he was the one who brought the initial cause to light. I received your letter last month and immediately ordered recruitment. This time, we recruited 4,000 directly. They've just finished a month of formation drills. The barracks aren't even properly built yet. Uniforms and gear haven't been issued, and the military specializations haven't been assigned. Look, the supplies have just been roughly gathered, and I plan to send them over tomorrow. My goodness, 4,000? Yu Fu's eyes nearly popped out. He had guessed there would be recruitment, but he hadn't expected such an ambitious scale. 4,000 men, almost the population of a county town. Isn't that right? You spread your hands, wearing an expression that said, Isn't this all because of you? Didn't your letter say some barbarians killed our people? Can our Han tribe people die in vain? We can't let them get away with it. Let's just capture them all and make them do hard labor. You said the other side has over 2,000 people. If our forces are too small, we wouldn't even be able to encircle them properly. You were crystal clear in your mind what recruiting so many soldiers meant. It sounded imposing and looked powerful, but for the Han tribe, whose population hadn't yet reached 100,000, the burden was extraordinary. Not only did it tie up manpower, but it also required sinking massive resources into it. All that iron armor and weaponry. Wouldn't it be better used making hoes and sickles? But there was no choice. The situation demanded it. If things continued developing at this pace, the Han tribe's population would explode within 10 years, necessitating expansion. No expansion? Would the newly added population just starve? To eat, they needed land. To farm land, they needed oxen and horses. Therefore, this opportunity to gain a foothold in the steppe had to be seized to benefit the tribe. Furthermore, as the population grew, the demand for iron surged. Tools, farm implements. What didn't need iron? To smelt more iron, they needed to mine coal and make coke. But where would they get so many people to mine coal? Relying solely on their own people was definitely not enough. They could only go and capture slaves to fill the gap. These matters seemed unrelated, but they were actually links in a chain. You worried too, but there was no choice but to bite the bullet and push forward. Evidently, Yu Fu's train of thought hadn't reached this point yet. He was still puzzled. Chief, I heard Big Tree say yesterday that we have nearly 90,000 people now. Are we still short of people? Is it necessary to raise a force of 4,000 just to capture slaves? Isn't this all something you stirred up, kid? Your light sentence hit Yu Fu, leaving him stunned. How did this big black pot of blame end up on my head? The two walked together to the administration building, went upstairs, lit the lamps, and ordered some wine and food. By lamplight, you leafed through Yu Fu's chicken scratch sailing log, breaking it down for him. The coal mine, you discovered it, right? Yes, Yu Fu nodded, wondering inwardly. What the heck does this have to do with recruiting soldiers and capturing people? Do you know what we use to smelt iron now? Charcoal? Yu Fu answered tentatively. Correct. But making charcoal is too much effort, inefficient, and how many trees must be cut down? It's not a long-term solution. At the current speed, gathering enough charcoal for one furnace load of steel takes at least a month. You tapped the table. So our low steel output isn't because we lack iron ore, but because we lack charcoal. It's a bottleneck, understand? And the way we're using that blast furnace now isn't right either. Too much heat is wasted. Do you know the correct way I designed that thing to be used? Yu Fu shook his head blankly. You had taught the iron smelting process hands-on, and you had drawn the plans for the furnace. They used it however you told them to. Who knew how it was supposed to be used? Wasn't it ultimately up to you? If the materials are sufficient, especially carbon. If there's enough carbon, the blast furnace can be continuously fed, producing molten iron day and night, without stopping. One day's output would equal nearly half a year's current production. Once a blast furnace is lit, it shouldn't be stopped. Easily, you sighed. Think about it, the furnace is so large, how much charcoal is wasted every time we restart it just to heat it up to iron melting temperature? Currently, we smelt once a month at best. How much heat is wasted every time we extinguish it? But things will be different in the future, you pointed at Yu Fu. Because the coal mine you discovered can completely replace charcoal. As long as we get hold of that coal mine, our Han tribe will no longer lack iron. You gave Yu Fu another rundown on the proper operation of the blast furnace and the strategic significance of coal. Even if they couldn't provide coal for every tribesperson to use for heating, just using it for iron smelting would be an epoch-making advancement. Only then did Yu Fu have a sudden realization why the chief said the blame was his. But it still didn't seem quite right. What was the necessary connection between discovering a coal mine and recruiting soldiers to capture people? No way, I won't take the blame for this. Seeing his stubborn expression that screamed, this has absolutely nothing to do with me. You felt annoyed, this blockhead. You discovered a coal mine. Doesn't it need people to mine it? Once mined, doesn't it need people to transport it? People to process it? Which step doesn't require people? Do you expect our own people to travel so far away to dig coal? Then, who would farm the land? So we are short of people now, very short. What do we do when we lack people? We can only go out and capture them. It just so happens you mentioned someone ignorant provoked us. Who else would I capture if not them? If we want to capture them all in one go, don't we need more soldiers? Besides, didn't you also claim a piece of land on the steppe? Don't we need to build a city? Doesn't the new city need soldiers to garrison it? Without these 4,000 new recruits, what could they possibly be enough for? You enumerated the reasons, point by point, finally placing the large pot of blame squarely and perfectly onto Yu Fu, even metaphorically welding it shut. Hearing about both the coal mine and building a city on the steppe, Yu Fu knew he couldn't shake off this blame. He could only give you a resentful glance. Fine, fine, I'll take it. Can't I just take the blame? Making it seem like it's all my fault. You completely ignored his subtle glance, pretending not to see, and lowered your head to quickly flip through the sailing log. When you read about the fleet reaching the sandbar, catching crocodiles, encountering the Li tribe, winning them over and discovering new ore along the way, you looked up. That sandbar, what's the story? How far is it from Liuyang Prefecture? Tell me in detail. Oh, the sandbar. It's just a sand island in the middle of the river, formed by river sediment soft to step on, Yu Fu recalled. The river is extremely wide there, with sandbars one after another. It also produces a kind of big fish with 4 legs, a really long mouth, and it can even climb ashore. Very fierce. We killed quite a few. As for that Li tribe, Yu Fu scratched his head. I brought them here because they raise a type of cat that looks like a lynx but smaller. I originally wanted to buy a few to keep as pets, but those simple folks insisted it was their god and wouldn't sell. I had no choice. To get those cats, I had to trick everyone, people and cats, into coming along. As for ore, there were several types too. We couldn't identify them all, but we had samples dug up and brought back. We recognized one type of copper ore. There's definitely copper there. We just don't know how much or how easy it is to dig. We didn't look closely. Yu Fu reported item by item. Just then, the ordered wine and food arrived. A minor official swiftly arranged them on the table and silently withdrew. These things you mentioned, did you bring them all back? Brought them all back. The people are waiting right outside. Yu Fu pointed towards the door. If the chief wants to see them now, I'll have them sent in right away. The ore samples, leopard cats and such were all carried by his subordinates. No rush. Eat first, we'll talk after eating. The two ate and talked, you flipping through the sailing log, casually asking about parts that caught your interest. Right, this sandbar you wrote about, exactly how far is it from Luoyang Prefecture? You weren't clear earlier. And that sand, did you collect samples? Did you bring any back? Yu Fu shoveled a mouthful of rice, thinking. When we went, we traveled stop and go and stayed at the Lu tribe's place for a few days in between. It took about half a month. Next time, if we travel day and night without stopping, I estimate we can reach it in 5 days. We brought sand. Samples, too. Yu Fu put down his chopsticks, asking curiously, Chief, that sand, could it possibly be useful too? Heh, you chuckled. Everything has its purpose. There's nothing useless in the world. It just depends on how you use it. This sand is no exception. If it's coarse sand mixed with lime, gypsum, and crushed stone, it's concrete. For building bridges, paving roads, constructing buildings, it's really sturdy, good stuff. If it's very clean, fine sand, mixed with carbon, alkali, sulfate, chalk, and heated in a fire, what can it be smelted into? Yu Fu's eyes widened. Could sand be a type of ore too? You've heard your brother Yuyi talk about crystal, right? You prompted. Yes, I've heard. Didn't they say you melted it down, Chief, and made a lens that can magnify things? Yu Fu answered tentatively. Right. You slapped your thigh. The things I just mentioned, plus sand, can be heated to produce something similar to crystal. In other words, we can also make magnifying glasses. It might not be as clear as crystal, but sand is everywhere. It's cheap. When the time comes, this glass made from sand will have a low cost, sell cheaply, and even ordinary common folk will be able to afford it. Of course, you didn't mention that glass could be made from more than just sand. Calcite, Iceland spar, feldspar, mica were all possibilities, as long as the silicon dioxide content was sufficient. But you didn't mention the most crucial ingredient, coal. Without coke, even a mountain of sand would be useless. Yu Fu listened with wide eyes, his jaw practically on the floor. How could plain, ordinary sand be connected to sparkling glass? He couldn't figure it out. Just as he began to grasp the concept, he became confused again. Chief, then, what do we need so much glass for? Even if those magnifying glasses are cheap, why would common folk buy them for no particular reason? Who told you glass can only be used for magnifying glasses? You were amused. Glass, like ceramics, can be shaped into whatever form you want. Can we make transparent cups, bowls, jars? Just imagine, transparent. And that's not all. We can also make glass into thin, transparent flat panels and use them instead of window paper. Think about it. Windows replaced with glass that lets light through and blocks wind and rain. How bright the rooms would be. Listening to your description, Yu Fu's eyes grew even wider, his mouth forming an O shape. Oh my God, how does the chief's brain work? How can he think of so many different uses for the same thing? He recalled the early days of firing ceramics. Everyone thought it was just for making bowls and basins to hold food and water. But within a few days, the chief had artisans firing the stuff into glazed tiles for roofs. Just as everyone found that incredible, A few days later, it was being turned into porcelain tiles for flooring. When it came to imagination, who in the entire Han tribe wasn't impressed by the chief? Even plain old sand could be turned into something amazing by him. After thinking for a long time, Yu Fu cupped his hands in respect, his face full of admiration. The chief is brilliant. We will follow all the chief's arrangements. After dinner, Yu personally inspected the haul they had. Brought back shiny black coal chunks, bluish-purple chalcocite ore, dazzling red cinnabar, mercury ore, several sand samples ranging from coarse to fine, a few timidly meowing leopard cats, the sandbar specialty dried crocodile meat and crocodile skins, plus the honey, millet seeds, and yellow millet seeds contributed by the Youjiang clan, and the type of rock salt that Jiang had previously carried back from the west bank of the Great River. The location of this salt mine, did you find out clearly? You picked up a piece of rock salt, examining it closely. Do they dig it themselves or trade for it with others? Our tribe's salt supply isn't sufficient. We absolutely must find a new source. I have a task for you. Find a way to dig up the information about this new salt mine. You paused, then waved your hand. Forget it. Didn't you say that Youjiang clan knows? Summon them tomorrow and ask them directly. The Han tribe's biggest headache right now was salt, not because the mines were insufficient, but because the mining efficiency was too low. The salt produced was barely enough for their own tribe to lick their lips over, leaving hardly any surplus. The little stockpile they managed to scrape together had to be traded with the steppe tribes or others for livestock, a trade they couldn't afford not to make, as the Han tribe desperately needed cattle, sheep, and horses to strengthen their ranks. Therefore, you had been keeping your eyes peeled, searching everywhere for new salt mines. There had been clues earlier. When Hanyang Prefecture was first established, the Yu tribe from the south had revealed that their old home was lost precisely because they lost a fight over a salt mine, forcing them to flee north with their families. Translated, this news meant south of Hanyang Prefecture, there was definitely another salt mine. However, according to the Yu tribe, that mine was already occupied. The Han tribe wanted it? Fine. Roll up your sleeves and go seize it. Earlier in the year, you were busy expanding territory, establishing prefectures and counties everywhere. The operation was spread too thin, manpower scattered like pepper flakes, short-staffed everywhere. You simply couldn't spare the forces to deal with that gang occupying the mine down south. But now, things were different. The newly raised 4,000 strong men were eagerly awaiting battle. It was time for them to do some work, earn some assets for the tribe. Otherwise, just paying military salaries to support these masters without hearing a peep of return, that was too losing a proposition. The Han tribe's foundation was thin, you couldn't afford such losses. This army had to be a hen that laid golden eggs. Whether it was seizing resources or capturing slaves, the Han tribe needed it all. As long as there was income, the military pay wouldn't be spent in vain. You and Yu Fu carefully inspected the various local specialties brought back this time. With his help, you crookedly added the newly scouted waterways and resource points to the map. Just as you finished, Yu Fu spoke up. Chief, if you want to attack that barbarian tribe, and you want to swallow them whole in one go, I reckon it's a bit risky. Yu Fu pointed at the river channel on the map. This river is quite wide, convenient for transporting troops with many boats. The riverbanks are also flat. If we prepare enough small boats, several thousand men could rush ashore in a beach landing. They probably couldn't withstand it. But, his tone shifted, if they see we have so many people, and our gear is much shinier than theirs, they might just get scared and run off. We'd be going by boat, without carts or horses. 2 legs can't catch 4. Besides, they know the terrain. If they set up an ambush for us in some random corner, maybe. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Maybe it would be difficult for us to annihilate them completely. There would surely be some who escape. Of course, our casualties would certainly be low. With their pathetic scrap metal, it's hard to injure our soldiers who are armed to the teeth. As Yu Fu analyzed, He peeked at your expression, afraid the word defeat might provoke you, quickly opting for a more euphemistic phrasing. You listened and chuckled. Heh, is that how battles are fought? Who told you that having more people means you have to charge head-on? I raised these 4,000 men to encircle them, not to play some reckless game of head-on beach landing. You counted on your fingers for him. Let's not even talk about whether the enemy runs or not. Even if one boat crams in 40 soldiers, for 4,000 men to land simultaneously, calculate how many boats that requires? At least 100. Where are we going to conjure up 100 boats? Don't boats cost money to build? Don't trees need to be cut? Even if we really had those 100 boats, tell me, for 100 boats to swarm ashore, how wide does the riverbank need to be? If one boat takes up 8 meters of width, 100 boats need 800 meters. An 800-meter front line, how would you command it? What if something goes wrong in the middle? Boats collide. What if boats capsize? Can you guarantee 0 mishaps? Moreover, just as you said, the enemy isn't stupid. Seeing hundreds of boats rushing over like dumplings being dropped into a pot, would they not run? If they scatter and vanish without a trace, wouldn't all our effort be wasted? This barrage of questions made Yu Fu's head buzz, instantly giving him a headache. Only then did he realize he truly wasn't cut out for commanding troops in battle. He hadn't even considered the intricacies the chief pointed out. You didn't blame him, though. Patting his shoulder, you consoled him. I know you've fought battles on the steppe, but how many people were involved then? A few dozen? 100 or so at most. You could stand in the middle and shout, and everyone could hear you. A major battle involving thousands isn't played like that. This isn't your strength. Just focus on utilizing your scouting skills. There will definitely be a role for you in this battle. Don't be impatient. But Yu Fu was still uneasy. Chief, since we can't charge the beach head-on, how should we fight? We need low casualties and complete annihilation of the enemy. He initially felt that overwhelming numbers guaranteed victory, but after your words, his heart was unsettled. What's so difficult about that? You smiled confidently. War requires brains, tactics, understand. Since we know the enemy will run upon seeing a large force, then we just block the road behind them first, right? Relax, I have a plan. I guarantee not a single one of them will escape. You assured him again. Yu Fu had no choice but to trust you. The chief was so brilliantly strategic, he surely had a way. Then I wonder who the chief intends to lead the troops this time. Yu Fu thought for a moment and asked. I plan to divide these 4,000 men into 2 ways, you outlined. Yingri will lead one way, Xietu will lead the other. I will personally command during the battle. After this fight, they will have to be stationed separately. One unit will go to the steppe to oversee the construction of the new city, and I have other arrangements for the other unit. You sighed with a touch of mock helplessness tinged with humble bragging. A battle formation of several thousand men, currently in our Han tribe. Besides me, there's really no one who can handle it. They don't know how to command either, so what can be done? Chief, Yu Fu's eyes suddenly lit up, volunteering himself. I've commanded battles on the steppe. Why not let me lead a unit? You? You pointed at him, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Give me a break. Just now, when I asked you how to fight, you couldn't even give a coherent answer. How can I possibly entrust the lives of several thousand brothers to you? Your tone shifted as you began to admonish him. Besides, every time you set sail, explore new routes and bring back so many good things for the tribe, that contribution is already immense. Don't try to grab the merit for leading troops in battle. Leave some room for others to advance too. If you keep competing for merits like this, countless people will be eyeing your position as head of the exploration group with envy. They think your job is easy, just taking a boat out for a cruise, coming back safe and sound, and the merit falls into your lap. These words were deeply cutting, aimed straight at the heart. Upon hearing them, Yu Fu dropped to his knees before you with a thump, overwhelmed with grievance, tears, and snot streaming down his face as he cried out his complaints. Chief, please see clearly. You mustn't listen to the slander of petty individuals. Your subject absolutely has no intention of grabbing merit. It has always been that wherever the chief points east, your subject dares not go west. Exploring. New territories, dealing with those savages with whom communication is impossible. Which time wasn't it risking life and limb? We could be buried in a foreign land at any moment. We have to rack our brains to inquire about local customs, geography, mountains, and rivers. And when we see things the tribe needs, we must devise ways to bring them back. How can they say such things? This is like stabbing a knife into your subject's heart. They say exploring new territories is easy. Did they not see the jars containing the bones of our compatriots? Those are brothers who sacrificed themselves for the sake of exploration. Chief, who exactly is slandering your subject? And the soldiers under my command. Tell me his name, and I will go confront him right now. Yufu prostrated at your feet, crying his heart out, making one feel, well, a little amused. In reality, nobody actually said such things. Even if someone thought it, they probably wouldn't dare voice it. Your words just now were purely improvised, fabricated on the spot. The purpose was twofold. First, to knock Yufu down a peg, lest he get cocky after achieving some merits and start eyeing military power. Second, to create some minor conflicts among the clan elders below, letting them care about each other, preventing them from banding together to cause trouble for you. This would help solidify your position as leader. Of course, with your prestige as the founding leader, suppressing them was no problem, but occasionally creating minor friction could be considered a way to spice up life. All right, get up. You reached out and pulled him up, feigning comfort. Your contributions, I am crystal clear about them in my heart. Others might not know, but how could I not know? Don't mind those rumors. An upright person has nothing to fear. All these good things you brought back are laid out right here. What more can anyone say? When everyone gets to eat the new grain seeds you brought back, they will naturally remember your good deeds. Yufu stood up, his face still etched with indignation. Okay now, you're a grown man. Don't be so sensitive. You continued to soothe him. What does it matter what others say? Whether you have merits or not, the common people see it. I see it too. What are you afraid of? Your tone shifted again as you began to make grand promises. Tomorrow, after meeting that Youjiang clan chief, we will record the merits for the brothers in the fleet. Those who sacrifice themselves will receive generous compensation. Whatever treatment martyrs receive, they will receive. Notify their families to go to the local administration office to collect the compensation and subsidies. Let everyone know that anyone who sacrifices themselves contributing to the tribe, even if they are gone, the tribe will raise their children for them, all the way until adulthood. Yes, thank you, Chief. The soldiers will surely be grateful for the chief's great kindness. Only then did Yufu put aside his grievances, cupping his hands again in thanks. After Yufu took his leave and went home, you sat back down before the map, beginning to ponder the Han tribe's next grand blueprint. Barring unforeseen circumstances, the total population of the tribe would surpass the 100,000 mark next spring. At that time, how should the new city on the steppe be built? Where would the immigrants come from? What would its main business be? How should the city be designed to be both practical and impressive? These were all matters to consider. Once the new steppe city gained a firm foothold, it would not only continuously supply the Han tribe with cattle, sheep, and horses, but also serve as a forward base for intervening in the affairs of the Shen tribe. Traveling from Hanyang City to the Shen tribe was simply too far. Even relaying a message was difficult. You mulled over the map like this, lost in thought until midnight, before rubbing your throbbing temples and heading home to sleep. The next morning, melodious bells echoed through the city. Hong Fu and Yu Fu, bringing along the Youjiang clan chief Jiang Xuan, and a high-ranking member named Jiang Yong, merged into the bustling stream of people heading to school, walking together towards the top floor of the Hanyang City administration building. Preparing for an audience with you, the great chief. Pitifully, you, the big boss of the Han tribe, didn't even have an independent office building and had to squeeze into the same building as the administration office. Alas, Hanyang City was indeed built too small back then. You sat in your top-floor office, silently lamenting your working conditions. Meanwhile, Xuan, filled with curiosity, followed Yu Fu into the administration building. Along the way, he was secretly observing everything. Somewhat surprisingly to him, the city where Yu, the Han tribe chief, resided was actually smaller than Youjiang Prefecture, which he had seen yesterday, perhaps not even matching the scale of Xitong County. However, Hanyang City had its unique aspects. Among the 3 settlements Xuan had seen, it was the only one with walls built of green bricks. Although the other cities were larger, their walls were made of rammed earth, which didn't look nearly as advanced. Another difference was that Hanyang City's various workshops seemed to be clustered together. Actually, there's no choice but to cluster them. The whole city is just this small. You silently grumbled in your mind. The city was neatly divided into 9 districts. The most eye-catching features were the workshops. 2 enormous chimneys extended from the roofs of tall factory buildings, piercing the sky. Who knew what went on inside? Outside the woodworking and oil-pressing workshops, several large windmills resembling ship sails protruded from the tops of the walls, tirelessly creaking and turning, contributing to the Han tribe's industrial revolution. Unfortunately, Xuan didn't have an admission ticket for a tour and could only gaze longingly at these behemoths from the outside, secretly guessing their purpose. However, these were not what made him most envious. What truly made Xuan's eyes green with envy was that the Han tribe actually had so many children who didn't have to do any work, but instead ambled off to special schools every day with their hands behind their backs. What did this signify? It meant that the number of literate brats in the Han tribe might exceed the total population of his entire Youjiang clan. Moreover, the Han tribe had already systematized and universalized this cultural inheritance. A tribe capable of achieving this, even if it looked unremarkable now, was bound to soar to great heights in the future. This was the foundation of civilization. What they called years of accumulation leading to eventual success probably meant something like this. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of footsteps ascended the stairs to the 5th floor of the administration building. Immediately after, a minor official announced in a drawn-out voice, "The junior minister of the reception office and the head of the exploration group, presenting the chief of the Youjiang clan for an audience." This was the first time Jiang experienced this type of announcement. He felt a bit bewildered, but not averse. Instead, he thought it seemed quite proper. He rather liked the Han tribe's set of rules and etiquette, feeling this was how a powerful, orderly tribe should be. It was the sacred place he yearned for. "Come in." From behind the red lattice wooden door pasted with white paper, a voice sounded, carrying both authority and a hint of youthfulness. The minor official immediately pushed the door open, leading Yu Fu and his group inside. Only then did the Han tribe chief, whom Xuan had anticipated seeing for over 2 months, finally appear before his eyes. Behind a large, solid wood desk sat a youth who looked 15 or 16 at most. The youth wore robes of black-edged, with red and a golden, somewhat exaggerated towering headdress. As Xuan observed him, the youth was also assessing him with sharp eyes. However, an indescribably strange feeling arose in Xuan's heart. This youth's gaze was too deep. The wisdom and authority emanating from it seemed entirely incongruous with his age. It felt as if an ancient, experienced soul resided within a young body. The junior minister of the reception office, Hong Fu, standing nearby, gave a timely, low cough. Xuan abruptly snapped back to reality, remembering the etiquette this Han tribe official had briefed him on the previous night. He quickly took a few steps forward, reaching the center of the hall, clasped his hands before him, and bowed deeply. "Chief of the Youjiang clan, Xuan, pays respects to the chief of the Han tribe." "Oh, Chief Jiang, welcome after your long journey. It must have been tiring." You rose enthusiastically, walked around the large desk that symbolized power, and sat down in the host's seat in the adjacent guest area. I should have personally met you at the city gate, but I was tied up with military affairs yesterday and simply couldn't get away. My apologies for any lack of hospitality. I had Junior Minister Hong receive you instead. Did you rest well last night? Come, sit here. You gestured for Jiang Xuan to sit opposite you, while a quick-witted minor, official beside him, deftly served steaming hot tea. This performance was crucial. He had to be given enough face. After all, he was the leader of a large tribe with over 2,000 people, and the Han tribe was hoping for peaceful assimilation. Eventually, Jiang Xuan would undoubtedly need to be arranged into a good position. If you didn't show the utmost sincerity now, how could you possibly coax this fellow over? Yu Fu, being the most familiar with Jiang Xuan, naturally became the on-the-spot translator for the day. The Youjiang language was unrelated to Han Chinese, or the steppe languages, making communication truly difficult. Yu Fu had to gesture animatedly for quite some time while speaking. When Jiang Xuan finally managed to understand your pleasantries, the scene from yesterday immediately flashed through his mind. Military supplies being transported all over the streets, weapons piled high as mountains. Busy with military affairs? How significant must these military affairs be? His heart immediately tightened. Chief Han, you are too kind. The hospitality has been excellent. Jiang Xuan quickly waved his hands, his face filled with flattered surprise. He couldn't help but be surprised. Before coming to the Han tribe, he could imagine anything. But having personally seen these cities, especially Hanyang City, he truly grasped the gulf-like disparity between the Youjiang and Han tribes. The leader of such a large tribe could look down his nose at him, and it would be perfectly understandable. Yet now he was being so polite. How could Jiang Xuan not feel flustered? I heard from Yu Fu that the Youjiang clan lives by the Liuyang River, has a population of over 2,000, and everyone makes a living farming. Ah, that sounds so familiar and close. You began to build rapport. Our two tribes should have been one family all along. Look, we all drink the water from the Liuyang River. That's a shared source. We all eat the grain irrigated by this river's water. That's a shared root. Since we share the same root and source, Chief Jiang, don't be a stranger. Just treat this place as your own home. Yu Fu and Hong Fu, sitting beside him, listened with eyes nearly popping out of their sockets. Goodness, the chief's silver tongue, isn't it incredibly persuasive? Claiming them as family in just 2 sentences? By this logic, wouldn't the Han tribe's relatives stretch all the way from the upper reaches of the river to the lower? Jiang Xuan looked at their shocked yet worshipful expressions, utterly baffled. What earth-shattering words did this Han chief just say? He could only turn his pleading gaze towards Yu Fu. Yu Fu quickly translated and explained your shared root and source theory. Now it was Jiang Xuan's turn to start questioning reality. Living by the same river was correct. Eating grain irrigated by the same river water was also correct. It sounded like there was nothing wrong with it. But why did he keep feeling something was off? Jiang Xuan couldn't understand how you managed to count 2 completely unrelated tribes as one family. But this didn't prevent him from understanding your true intention, to build connections, with the ultimate goal of having the Youjiang clan merge with the Han tribe. How the connection was built wasn't important. What mattered was you had to convince me first. Since Chief Han puts it that way, asking me to be at home in my own territory, Jiang Xuan tentatively responded, then I won't stand on ceremony? Absolutely. We're all family. Why be polite? Hearing him yield slightly, you immediately seized the opportunity, becoming as enthusiastic as a real estate agent. If you have any difficulties, just speak up. If we can help, we definitely will. If we can't, we'll create the conditions to help. Ah, by the way, does your Youjiang clan lack housing? If so, come join us. We have plenty of good houses. I guarantee. I'll arrange things clearly for you. See how good I, your big brother, am to you. Jiang Xuan was left speechless by your haphazard, rambling sales pitch, unsure how to respond. He frantically complained inwardly. This chief you're thinking jumps around too much, doesn't it? How can the topic always circle back to annexing our Youjiang clan within 3 sentences? And phrased so uniquely unconventional? This huge tribe of yours, was it really built just by talking your way through everything? Huh? Seeing no way around it, Jiang Xuan decided to be direct and asked pointedly, Chief Han, forgive my bluntness, but the Han tribe is already so powerful, with numerous cities and people. Why are you still so eager for more population? Do you have some grand plan for the future that requires such vast manpower? He genuinely wanted to hear your thoughts. To bring the Han tribe to its current state and have his subordinates so obedient? He wouldn't believe for a second that this young chief lacked real ability and long-term vision. Just based on this coaxing, no, this eloquence and flexible thinking, asking about the tribe's future development would surely yield some insight. Moreover, Jiang Xuan himself was currently troubled by the developmental bottleneck facing the Youjiang clan. If he could glean even a little bit of experience from you, even if he didn't end up joining the Han tribe, he could go back with a clearer idea of which direction his own tribe should take. Hearing Jiang Xuan's counter-question, you knew this fellow couldn't be won over by mere coaxing. It was time for some substance. The smile vanished from your face, your expression instantly switching to a serious mode. So serious that Jiang, for in opposite you wondered if his eyes had been playing tricks on him earlier, as if you had always been this profound and steady. Population naturally, the more the better, you said gravely. With more people, more can be accomplished, and everyone's lives can improve. With fewer people, many great undertakings can only be watched helplessly, and development slows. But each of us has limited time, so I must pursue faster development speed and a larger population. You paused, a sharp glint in your eyes. A great man once said, 10,000 years are too long. Seize the day, seize the hour. I strongly agree. With that sentiment, life is short, just a few decades. I have to strive with all my might to make the Han tribe large and strong, to accumulate more of a foundation for future generations. By the way, Yu Fu mentioned the Youjiang clan also worships ancestors. You should understand what I mean, right? You looked at Jiang Xuan and continued, respecting ancestors is correct. Our Han tribe also reveres heaven and earth, nature, and ancestral heritage. Without heaven, earth, and nature, where would we be? Without land, rivers, sunlight, air, where would food come from? We can't survive without eating, so heaven and earth are great and must be revered. Ancestral heritage is also important. It was our ancestors who taught us how to survive, how to utilize the resources given by Mother Earth. This is the foundation upon which our people have endured to this day, so people cannot forget their roots. But, your tone shifted. I also have some thoughts of my own. Just like our ancestors, they summarized experiences through countless tears and bloodshed, then taught us bit by bit, so we wouldn't repeat the same mistakes and would master the right methods. By the same token, to our descendants, we are their ancestors, so why can't we leave more behind for the next generation, whether it's better food and clothing, or more advanced technology, or richer culture and ideas? Since we have the ability to do better now, why not leave more behind? Yu Fu mentioned your Youjiang clan excels at beekeeping, producing honey and honeycombs. I don't even need to guess. You will surely teach this skill to your descendants, letting them pass it down. But what then? You stared intently at Jiang. Xuan, beginning a rapid-fire questioning. Besides getting some honey and honeycombs, what other uses does beekeeping have, do you know? How long can honey be stored without spoiling, do you know? Besides eating, what else can honeycombs be used for, like beeswax, do you know? Besides collecting nectar, bees can also help pollinate crops in greenhouses, do you know this? Looking at the baffled Jiang Xuan and Yu Fu beside him gesturing wildly, trying hard to translate, you continued relentlessly, twisting the knife. All this you don't know. So what? You can only pass on what your ancestors taught you, unchanged, to the next generation. No progress at all. Is doing that really right? As an ancestor to your descendants, if you yourself are merely a mouthpiece, unable to create more and better things to pass on? Ask yourself honestly, just being a mouthpiece passing down the old ways unchanged, is that worthy of the ancestors who painstakingly carved out a path in the wilderness? Is it worthy of the descendants eagerly waiting for us to forge the future? Your words struck not only Jiang, Xuan, and Jiang Yong, but also Yu Fu and Hong Fu nearby, plunging them into deep thought. The chief's words, they cut damn deep, and they made damn good sense. Could it be that once you learned the ancestors' skills, you could justifiably muddle along waiting for death, simply teaching what you learned to the next generation, watching your children start families, and considering your task complete? But Osi, if you don't know anything yourself, how can you create more things? Someone muttered quietly, voicing a very practical problem. Not everyone was a genius. Who could guarantee they would leave behind something new and useful for their descendants in their lifetime? This statement also seemed reasonable. But after hearing your mouthpiece theory, thinking this way again felt like making excuses for complacency. Thus, Zhang Xuan looked up and asked sincerely, "Chief Han, your words hold great truth. But as you said, there are many things we don't understand. Never mind us Youjiang people. Even with so many people in the Han tribe, it's impossible for everyone to be as knowledgeable as you. Then what should we do to be able to leave a richer legacy for our descendants? Please enlighten me, Chief Han. What's so difficult about that?" You waved a hand dismissively. "If you don't know, then learn. Not everyone is an inventor, but if we teach basic knowledge to 100 people, 1 or 2 bright minds are bound to emerge who can create something new. Whatever they come up with, it's a good thing. Then we have more people learn and summarize. Those who learn new things can then figure out their own methods. Even if only one emerges from 1,000, we've still gained. If you think the rest are useless, then you are gravely mistaken. We leaders only need to promote those few clever ones, give them authority, and let them lead the others to work. For example, as you saw on your way from Luoyang Prefecture, since we know digging artificial rivers and repairing irrigation canals can open up more good land, we can let those few clever ones take the lead, guiding everyone to dig together. Even if our current land is sufficient for now, what about the future? Once the common people's lives are stable and they have enough food, the population will definitely soar. For instance, if you have 5 children and each of those 5 children has 5 more, the population multiplies 25 times. With more people, more land is certainly needed to grow food. If we don't start preparing now, should we wait until our descendants are starving before expecting them to figure out how to dig rivers and canals? It's not impossible, but how many years does it take to dig a river? Since we can do it now, why leave it to our descendants? That generation of descendants will have their own tasks to accomplish. They too must contribute for their descendants. We can't push all the work we should be doing onto the next generation. How is that different from the complacency I mentioned? If you drag your feet and don't do it, your descendants will follow your example and won't plan for their descendants either. If this continues, how can the tribe develop? How can it progress? So we must lead by example. How parents act is likely how children will act in the future. Environment shapes people, you know. Although it's not absolute, the influence is definitely there. Perhaps you don't fully grasp it yet from just this explanation. Let me tell you a story. You cleared your throat and began to tell an old tale. Once upon a time there was a family, with 3 generations living together. The man of the house, you see, was extremely unfilial. He resented his old mother for being old and useless, so he used a small cart to wheel his own mother, who had raised him through hardships, out into the desolate wilderness. Then he went home by himself, planning to let his mother starve to death, out of sight, out of mind. His son witnessed this. The little grandson's heart ached. He didn't want his grandmother to die like that. So he ran out and pushed the small cart his father had used to wheel his grandmother away back home. But he didn't bring his grandmother back. Chief Han, Jiang Xuan couldn't help but interject upon hearing this, his tone indignant. Didn't you say this grandson couldn't bear to part with his grandmother? Then why didn't he bring her back? Just bringing the cart back, how is that different from his father? The Youjiang clan also valued filial piety. Hearing you speak of abandoning one's own mother naturally angered him. Your face remained impassive as you continued unhurriedly. The child's father asked his son the same thing. Why did you bring this useless cart back? It's bad luck just looking at it. But his son replied righteously, didn't you use this cart to wheel grandma away? I'm keeping it. When you get old and can't work anymore, I'll use this same cart to wheel you out into the wilderness and abandon you. That's what you taught me. Hearing this, the child's father turned pale. Only then did he realize how terribly wrong he had been. He quickly pushed the small cart again and obediently went to bring his old mother back home. Oh, Xuan suddenly understood, slapping his thigh. I get it. This is what you meant, Chief Han, by leading by example, environment shaping character. If parents aren't filial, the children will follow suit. He immediately added with admiration. But this child you speak of, Chief Han, is truly clever. To think of such a method to make his father repent. Where is this child? What's his name? I truly wish to meet this child who is both clever and filial. Hearing Jiang Xuan's praise, the expression on your face suddenly froze for a moment. The corner of your mouth twitched, and you began to frantically complain inwardly. Where am I supposed to find this kid for you? Isn't this just an anecdote I heard in my past life?